Hello everyone and welcome back to the Those Who Hope podcast. I'm very excited because today I have a very, very good friend with me and it's very hard already to not call you Sister Katy. So I'm just going to call you Sister Katy. This is Katy Treharne or Katy Gibson. What are we going with?
Oh, what are we going with? Well, I'm both. Officially, I'm Katy Gibson after getting married to the wonderful Mr. Gibson back in March. That's 10 months. But Katy Treharne, I was Katy Treharne for many years. Gosh, I nearly let slip how old I was then. Oh, it shall remain a mystery. And so I still use Katy Treharne for performance things. And then Mrs. Gibson most of the time. Although Amazing. Mr. Gibson finds it very, very strange because he plays piano for a lot of concerts and stuff. So whenever I'm introduced as Katy Treharne, he's like, "Oh, who's that? Oh, yes, that's my wife."
Yeah. And the audience don't know.
No.
Unless you reveal it to them.
Yes. I do sometimes like to reveal it to the audience because I think everyone loves a little bit of information like that, and then just to embarrass him a little bit, draw attention to him behind the piano.
Yeah, absolutely. He can't escape it then, the attention.
Yes, exactly.
Well, so you've spoken a little bit about how you're a performer. So tell us a little bit about that.
Oh gosh, well. As you can probably tell from my accent, I'm from Wales, and I think music has always been in my blood since a young age. Going to school, we had Eisteddfods and took part in choirs, and there was there was so much to do. There's so much richness back then growing up that I could go to as a child, and so I always loved to sing, always loved to perform in amateur dramatic societies and youth camps and stuff with the music. So I think I was definitely performing. From a young age. I think I'm one of three, and my mum would definitely say that I was the loudest. She said one of her sayings is I had a bell on every tooth. I say tooth, that's a tooth. It's my accent.
I was like, what's that?
What's a tooth? I know. People always pull me up on that. Yes, toothpaste or tooth. I did. I love people, and I love to really perform for people growing up. So then when I was 18, I went to the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama, and because I was auditioning at the time. Actually, this is, I hope that this encourages people. Actually, just diverting slightly.
Yeah, do.
When I was in sixth form, and I had some brilliant teachers in school who, especially my drama teacher, who really encouraged me to pursue a career in the arts, and so I was auditioning for drama schools. So I was in coming up to London auditioning, and I was getting recalls and I wasn't, and I didn't get any place in drama school, and my singing teacher really encouraged me to pursue the singing element more and classical singing. So I love singing musical theatre and other stuff, but I was really developing that voice. And so I auditioned for the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama. That was the only conservatoire that I auditioned for, and I got a place.
Wow.
So then that felt that it was decided for me. That was my option.
Yeah.
And I went, and it was a 4-year music degree. And then at the end of my degree, and through those 4 years, you learn your craft, you learn your technique singing, and loads of opportunities as well that I took up, especially the Welsh National Youth Opera and companies like that.
And before getting to that stage, did you know for a long time that that's what you wanted to go and train to do? Performing in general, like when did you kind of decide that's what you wanted to do as a career?
Oh gosh, I just think that I just always loved doing it, and I always wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And because of encouragement of those around me, like, well, you can do it.
Yeah.
I there was a moment of discouragement when I was in school. The careers advisor, who shall remain nameless, was trying to, I don't know what they do now, but back then you were on the computer and you had to fill out lots of questions. It was a huge questionnaire. Then it gave you like a list of like your top 10 careers, like paths or like jobs. And I know mine came up, an actress. And the career advisor was, well, that's not very realistic, is it? You know,
Classic.
classic. Maybe, go into teaching and stuff like that, which isn't a bad career. I love teaching myself, but I mean, that was a little bit like, okay, well, I'm going to show you kind of thing. That's my character.
Sometimes it makes you want to do it more, doesn't it?
Yes, to push you on. It's like, well, if other people can do it. And, back then I didn't know kind of where. I knew I wanted to perform. I love singing, acting, but how that looked like, I didn't know. So that was a really good setup for me, having that music degree. And it was a very performance-based as well. And at the end of the 4 years, and this was just... these moments happen for you. And it was last minute. I stepped in at a concert in St. David's Hall. I don't know if you remember Connie Fisher, who won the Sound of Music.
Yeah.
She was going through a really tough time with her voice, and she had to pull out of the concert the night before. And the concert involved people that I knew. And so the musical director said, would you step in and for Connie and do all her songs? Which I was like... okay.
Wow. Did you have to learn it all quickly?
Yes. It wasn't a huge amount, and there were some solos that musical theatre numbers that I knew, but it was so nerve-wracking because you haven't prepared mentally, and it's a really great venue to singing and to do some choreography with some male voice choir and stuff. So it was, it was exciting. And it went out on the BBC radio at the time.
Wow.
And a friend of mine then suggested me, she was working at an agency and they were looking for some young girls to put on their books who would kind of do the more classical stuff. And so my agent then listened to the recording and then said, can I put you up for an audition for Phantom of the Opera? And yes.
Wow. Was you still finishing your degree at this point? Or you?
Yes, I was in my 4th year. So I was literally a couple of months before I was finishing my degree. So yeah, that was amazing. Like I knew that at the end, maybe like the January, and I was finishing in the July, I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. People said, no, you go and do a postgrad or do this. And I was going, and in my heart as well, I love teaching. And I was like, maybe I'll go and do a teaching degree or something as well and see what I can do with that. But then this opportunity came up, which was amazing. And at the time I wasn't a Christian, and this is one of those moments where you can look back and see how God orchestrates things, is my musical pun, and and how he sets things up, even when you don't know him and you're not following him. And I can look back with such gratefulness at that time in my life for how things happened.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing that when you were 18 and looking at where you were going to go for university, that you had an interest already in musical theatre and acting, performing as well as singing, and that God orchestrated it so perfectly to line you up prepared, ready for Phantom of the Opera, which I don't know if we actually revealed that you got the job. She got the job.
Da, da, da. Yes, do you know what? It was, I couldn't quite believe it, thinking, a little girl from the valleys and went to Cardiff, moving to the big city. I think my mum was a bit apprehensive, but it was such, it was a really, really wonderful process. I also didn't really quite grasp the gravity of it, like, wow, this is a West End show. And I think later down the line, being quite young, I thought, it's quite easy to get a West End show. Then you find further down the line it's really tough. But it was such a blessing just to be able to learn. I felt that going into that show, a well-known show, that I could really just be looked after in the cast. The cast varied in age. People had been there for such a long time, and they really took me under their wing and helped me learn the craft. I know there was my friend who I sat next to on the desk. I said to her, we had to wear wigs, and I said to her, why do I need to take all these pins out? And she was like, no, it's set. You got to just put it on your head. There was just funny things like that, learning like, that's Act 1 beginners and all this. I'd never learnt really learned or taken that in to the full extent of all the theatre knowledge. So it was a real wonderful learning curve for me.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so cool to hear about, because obviously I've heard a lot about your career and how it started, but to hear about it in detail, it's just, you can see how clearly God was working out that plan for you, and that's amazing. So how long were you there, and what part was you playing, and what was your role?
Yes, so I was in the show for more or less 3 years. For the first 2 years, I was cast as understudy Christine and in the chorus. So I think that was a really, really good building block of learning to be in the chorus, learning that track, but also being an understudy, learning how to understudy a big role like Christine. It was very daunting. Yeah, definitely very daunting. I mean, I was the youngest person in the cast, so I felt like people were just really, really helping me, and just to learn such a big role. And
when you say a big role, like, if people aren't familiar with the show, that is a big, like, it's many people's dream to play that role, isn't it?
Well, yes, I think if you look at so many, especially soprano roles in musical theatre, she does a lot of singing in that. It's a big role, big range as well.
Yes. We've got piano there. Do you
remember that? Gosh, yes. I'm not going to sing you top E's today. I can sing you bottom G's though. Yes, and being able to just go on for that role, because once you're on stage in that role, it doesn't stop. You're either on stage, bar one scene where you're like getting changed and having a drink and going to the loo really quickly to get back on. So I mean, it was brilliant. It was electrifying, and it was really great to be able to then be able to go on. So you go on when people are on holiday or when they're sick, and that, people can come and support you. And I always loved having people in who I knew, and just to have that. And it was just a really, really amazing experience to look back on.
Oh, that is so amazing. And the amazing part as well that I love about your story in Phantom is that it kind of led to you finding your faith, didn't it? And we'll talk about it more in a bit later, but you are the co-founder, is that what you would call it, of West End Has Faith?
Yes.
Which we have actually spoken about in a couple of episodes already, because I've interviewed a couple of people from West End Has Faith, and we just rave about it so much, because West End Has Faith is just amazing. It's a community for Christian performers, and this podcast can help everyone to know how it all started.
No pressure. Wow. Yes. Definitely. Oh, that really warms my heart. It really does. Let me go back a little bit then.
Yes.
So I said I was understudying for 2 years, and everything was going great. You were just like, I was on stage on a West End show. You think you're living your best life. I just moved from Wales up to the big city. And then I left the show because I thought at the end of my 2 years, I was ready to leave and look for other things. So I did a few little jobs, and also did the Phantom of the Opera, the 25th anniversary.
Oh, yes.
So
I think that was on TV last night.
Oh, was it? Yeah. Yes. I mean, you can spot me. Like, I have to point myself out to you if you want any chance of seeing me.
I'm going to put it on later.
So that was really great, because that was a good few weeks. And then I went and did a Christmas show.
What was the Christmas show?
I was at Thursford Christmas Spectacular. So that was up in Norfolk.
Oh, yes, I've heard about that. Yes. That's meant to be amazing.
I mean, it's a really, really, really big Christmas show. I mean, if you love Christmas, you should go. I mean, the Christmas decorations, everything, it's great. But for me, during that time, the Cameron McIntosh's office got in touch and asked me to come back, which was really good, as alternate Christine. So something had happened with someone leaving, and so it's really, that's really humbling to be asked to come back. And I felt that I'd had a bit, a few months break, that it was good to then go back just after Christmas and to be cast as alternate Christine, which let me explain. A lot of roles will have, like, there'll be a person playing a role, and then there'll be two understudies, so first and second cover. And with the role of Christine, because it's such a big role, that it's shared, so you have two principals that do it depends, either 6 or 2 or 4 on 4, and then you do more when people are away. So for me, it was the opportunity of having that weight of carrying the role and going on more as well. So I was getting more shows. And for me during that time, and like looking back, you can see how God had brought people into my life. And I've definitely been searching, because I've been brought up in church as a young girl. Went to a church in Wales, which my grand still goes to, and I went to Sunday school. So I had some foundation, but going away to university and then not going to church and not feeling that God was a big part of my life, and also not knowing who Jesus is. Like I knew about Jesus.
Yeah.
I didn't doubt that he was real, but fully understanding that Jesus is the Son of God and my Savior, and that actually I can have a relationship with him and walk in him and be in Christ every day was something that wasn't even on my radar.
Yeah.
So I made a friend with through someone, a great guy called David Birch, who was doing lots of shows at the time, and he'd been through a lot of struggles and was finding his faith and being brought up in a Christian family. And so it was really good, like getting to know him. And simultaneously at the time, I was starting to really struggle with being on stage and doing my job, which was really, really hard. And it started as a very small seed, like that then grew in the wrong way, so to say. I felt that I was going out on stage and feeling just the more pressure of playing the role more, and you know, it's such a big show. So many people have seen it. So many people have so many opinions on it. It's really hard not to read those and to look for them, and then to feel not good enough, and to feel that you're lacking in things. And also, when you are in theatre, you do get notes a lot of the time from directors, which is great, like to be able to keep on it. But so I think for me, it felt that there was no encouragement. There was no kind of positiveness coming from it, in a way that, and I think that I beat myself up a lot, that I wasn't good enough. So this manifested itself in stage fright, and it grew every time that I found that I was in a place where I just did not want to go on stage. I just couldn't wait for that contract to end. I know that it was quite a few months of doing that, and you know, it was really destructive for my mental health. And at first, you know, I was trying to look in different places. You know, you kind of think, oh, this must be a health thing. This must be in my body. There must be something going on, you know, and you get people to get cameras down your throat and look in this, and ENT specialists.
Because you were literally feeling physical symptoms that you, was it that you felt your throat was closing up, that you couldn't sing? And
yes, absolutely. I think like the mind has such power. Yes. Because you go into panic mode and then your body reacts to that. Yeah. So I felt like, and to be honest, they did like the one guy who was doing a voice massage, right? He said it's really tense, it's really tight, because if you're in that state of anxiety all the time and you're holding, gosh, you think of the muscle tension there that was in my throat, but it wasn't the muscle tension that was like held, you know, it was because of the stage fright I was going through. And so I was trying to find answers in so many different places, and it came to my friends just helping me to focus on God and keep pointing me towards Jesus and who he is and his promises of a hope and a future. Because I thought, why have I been given this gift that I cannot use? I love to sing. It was really, really breaking my heart. And do you know what? Just then going to church and being surrounded by Christians who just loved me and were able to support me, able to pray. And it wasn't something that sometimes we think like, oh, this will change overnight, we'll have a miraculous healing. But actually what God did through that was help just teaching me to depend on him every day, you know, and and it, you know, it reminds me in scripture of Paul's thorn in his flesh, you know, drawing him closer to God through it all. You know, it was still painful for a long time, but then it started to get so much better. And my prayer was, Lord, help me find joy again. Don't just help me get through it. And I think we can get stuck in our prayers, like, Lord, just get me through this. It's like, he doesn't want us to just get through it to the end and think, oh, thankfully I've got there. But he wants us to flourish. He wants us to grow. He wants to bring joy through the things that we do for him. And I think it was definitely that I was singing for him in that. So I'm just so thankful and grateful to God for bringing me through that. And I know that if that trial hadn't been there, I would just be living my life for me, selfishly, and not keep being reminded of God's goodness every single day.
Yeah, that is so amazing. And I think, because I know that during that time, it was such a big struggle for you. It was such a hard time. And, you know, we've spoken about how I've been through anxiety as well. So I know how extreme those feelings are. And it's just so hard, because even if you can tell yourself in your brain that it's irrational or whatever, like, it feels so real and such kind of a powerful force over you that it's so hard to shake off.
Yes.
And it's amazing that through finding God that you that helped you kind of find that relief in that anxiety, and having people around you to support you as well, which is so wonderful.
Do you know what? That's such a good thing, Katrina, to be able to talk about like feelings and how powerful they can have an effect on us. But then that's why we need God and the Bible, because we can't keep relying on our feelings.
No.
Like it says, like, the heart is wicked. You know, it really, like, in a way, we just our hearts sometimes deceive us, and that's more like in heart as in our feelings, like, because next day we can wake up so differently. But what we have is our cornerstone is Jesus telling us that who he is, and he doesn't change, even though our feelings, and they are very real. I'm not trying to diminish them at all. They're very real. But that's why it's so amazing that we can go to God in prayer and ask for his peace, ask for his guidance. And through all these things that we are experiencing, very real, he knows our human emotions are so vast. And I think I'd be all over the place if it wasn't for God, because I wouldn't know how to cope with these emotions. And as you know, how strong things can feel in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you feel that through meeting God through this struggle and being encouraged to seek God, how did that kind of change things for you, you know, practically? Did it make you feel, was it because your identity was now in God, that it took the pressure off of being good enough, or kind of what was it?
Do you know what? I think it changed my mindset for what I wanted to do, because it's like, I want to share how good this is, like how amazing Jesus is. And especially when you look around at this broken world, it's like, we need Jesus. And so for me, in terms of like thinking of my future and career, even before thinking about that, it was like, from all those thoughts, and with my friend David Birch, we're like, we need to support people within this industry. There must be more Christians. Like, where are they? Because, you know, it's hard to know sometimes in a theatre company, and how you connect with people in that. And so we thought, let's put on a concert. It was in Covent Garden, and we thought, we'll do a concert and we'll invite people, and we have no idea what we're doing, but we just want to sing some songs, sing some praise and worship as well, and tell people about Jesus and how he's changed our lives. And in that concert, my very good friend Hannah Grace came down the aisle at the end, and she said, thank you so much. And she was on tour at the time. She was touring, and she said, I no longer feel alone. And I think that phrase has always stuck with me. It's like, what does God want me to do now with what I have, what I've been through? And out of that was born, well, West End Has Faith. We prayed about that. And it's for people, you know, supporting Christians on stage, you know, on and off stage as well. People who work, you know, in the wings, but just to unite people and to create that community. My heart was just to unite and to support And do you know what? It has been 10 years since that concert, more or less, amazing. A little bit more than that. And like when you say you know, Katrina, you've been doing interviews with people say about Western House Faith. I mean, I'm just bowled over with how amazing God is through that, because it's none of me. It's all of him that's done that. And gosh, it makes you feel quite emotional, doesn't it? And so for me, I no longer had that that urgent desire to really push to do shows. I was auditioning as well, and I just thought, you know what, God, if you want me there, you'll have me there, but if not, well, as long as you're leading me to do your work, it doesn't matter what it looks like. And you know, and I still did shows. I never did a kind of a long contract again, but I've still enjoyed a career in music, doing things, but also out of Western as Faith, you know, we do these concerts as well. We use our gifts to go around different places, to share testimony. For me, evangelism is a really amazing and important thing. And I think what people like about the Western as Faith concerts is they're unique. You know, and there's different people all the time. You know, we've got a good big community, and people are like, oh wow, I didn't like really consider people Christians in the performing world, and how they feel and what they go through and how we can support them. You know, it's just been wonderful, and to be able to encourage children as well, and the younger generation. Yes, you can do this, or you can go into theatre as well. Put God first. There's always the message in it, and for me, they've just been amazing experiences to go. You know, we've been Scotland, Northern Ireland, and lots of other places around the UK. And it's just been such a fulfilling thing to do, I think. And you know yourself, Katrina, how do you feel when you're like, what's your experience of the concerts?
Well, I had Anna on the podcast recently, and before we were filming the podcast, I was telling her, because she said, oh, what are the West End Has Faith concerts like? And I was like, they are my favourite thing to do. Like, I've done a few jobs now since graduating, and there's been some big highlights too with those, but West End Has Faith concerts are definitely one of the biggest highlights, because there's just something so magic about it, and that's because it's God's presence. You just feel God's presence there so strongly. And when I've done the concerts, because they're usually in wonderful like church venues, and it's just so beautiful, and there's just something so beautiful about it. And I think because in the concerts, and I think the way you've designed them, is that there's such a beautiful vulnerability in them too, where we're performing and people are getting to come and see wonderful entertainment with incredible singers that I'm just like, even to be able to sing with you all, I'm just like, all amazing. And but we also share testimonies and just share our stories, and that is just so powerful, because to have that kind of space where everyone's just listening to these, you know, because usually in musicals, for example, you don't get to see who the person is behind what they're doing, and we get to show people that and show them that the reason we're doing it is for Jesus, and it is really powerful. And we get to share, like you share your testimony and I share mine as well, and a bit about my mental health, and lots of people just seem to really be impacted by it, and it gives them hope to leave with, doesn't it? Like, there's so much hope in that room.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I also think it's a great way of getting non-Christians into church, because lots of people love to go to musicals. Why do people go there? It's an escapism, isn't it? From the real world, the stresses of life, and you go to be entertained, and you want to be left feeling in a certain way. Sometimes I've left the theatre very depressed when it's been a very sad story. But I mean, you know, people on stage want to do something, don't they? They want to give. And bringing non-Christian friends to West End Has Faith concerts is just a kind of a new way of getting people into church. I kind of think of it like, you know, Jesus with jazz hands. That might be the new concert series. I don't know. And that people come in and then they're like, oh, wow, okay, I love, yeah. And they already feel a connection because they love the subject matter and stuff. But then when, like you said, Katrina, like they see us as real people behind the characters. And then, it's really fun for us then to sing songs we love singing and put on characters and doing and entertaining in that way and stirring different emotions, but always like bringing it back to God. And that's what I just think they're just so unique.
Yes.
And
probably changes people's perceptions maybe of Christians too, because like you said, there's different things sometimes where people don't put the two and two together of thinking that Christians can perform, but we're inspired by God, and God is the most creative being. And we went to an amazing seminar. We went to Keswick convention, didn't we, in the summer? And there was sermons there about creativity and about how God uses those for us to create these, what do they, like oases, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, like these spaces for people to be drawn near to God through creativity and through art. And I suppose maybe for you, finding God through singing had become something that was really difficult and something that you didn't want to do anymore because it was painful and it was hard, but God managed to turn that round for you. But not only I was speaking about this with Anna about how when you go through something, sometimes you think, I'm never going to get back to how it was before. Like you might have thought, I'm never going to be able to go back to just singing and it being fun and it being what I enjoy anymore. But not only did God transform it, he didn't just take it back to how it was before of, I can enjoy singing now. He completely transformed it to be even more powerful because now it was about him and not just about you, kind of thing. And I think that's so powerful because I think as Christian performers, that's what we're doing this, not just because we enjoy it, we really do, but we feel called to it, that God wants to use us in this way. And I think that's amazing that God not only restored it for you and helped you to, because we spoke a lot about, with Anna, we spoke about identity too, and about how if your identity is in what you do, then it's just,
absolutely.
Whereas your identity, you got to find out that you're a child of God, you knew your worth now, and then he gave you back being able to sing, but being able to do it for him and blessing hundreds upon hundreds of people, because there's everyone who's part of the West End has faith family, people that we support, but also all the audiences that have seen you as well.
Absolutely. And definitely like what you said about identity as well in the theatre world. And I know there were friends of mine who would really, really struggle. They worked for years and yet coming to the end of a contract, they would start to have anxiety and be like, what can I do? What can I do? I've got no job coming. And that whole sense of desperation, not knowing the future at all. But for me, it's been like, well, that's fine. What can God do now? And it really just does change your perspective and have that peace and know that he's going to carry me through it. It might be a dry patch or whatever. Nothing might come for a while. I might not sing for months, but, you just have to trust God through it all.
Yes. It's absolutely amazing to hear this story. And I think it's really going to bless people. Thank you so much. And we have got a bit more time. And I kind of want sounded like I was wrapping up then.
Wrapping. Sorry.
But talking about trusting God and through all the processes and all the things he takes us through, I'd love if you could share us a bit about what God's been doing in your life in the last few years, because there's a whole other testimony here. Our testimonies aren't just when we find Jesus, are they? He's always
all the way,
weaving our story for his glory.
Yes, every day. Oh yes, that was a really smooth link there. I love that. Yes, do you know what? God has been so good. When I was going through like my patch of stage fright and stuff, not walking with the Lord, I got pregnant and I had my beautiful baby Isaac, who is now 9. Wow, which is amazing. You look back and, God showed me. And then I was a single mum for many, many years, struggling in London. And God showed me, even just in my sin and not following him, God turned it round because I had to make that decision to trust him. It's like I need to give it all to God. And then with Isaac, I think as a loving father, you said like we have so many images of God, and I love what you said. He is a creator God and creates things. That's why I love the art so much. But I think as a loving father, that we can run to his loving arms. I think having that small baby in front of me and looking and thinking, wow. And, children are a gift from God. That's a huge, huge blessing. I was like, you know what? I wasn't even walking with the Lord. I was really struggling. I had so many questions. Yet he blessed me in that. Like, I do not deserve that. That is such an amazing thing. I know we don't deserve, it's and Jesus came for us so that we can be made righteous with the Lord. And it just blew my mind in that. And then for me then was having that time of trusting God and then being a single mom, doing all the things that you have to do with that, through that, but also having a period of waiting. Because I think, I found it really difficult seeing friends get married, so happy for them, and then and they were so gracious to me, saying bring you and Isaac can come along, and bring him along, and then I would be like, this is such a wonderful day and happy for friends, but then you have that you feel that hard burden and that like of being alone and loneliness in that. And God really worked in my heart on that, actually, because Jesus is enough. And I just really focused on my relationship with God through that, to where I got to a point where I was like, well, do you know what? If I'm meant to be with someone, then God will make it happen. I don't have to go around chasing or looking and being worried about it. And if, God wants me in this position, then he can really use me in so many ways if I'm meant to be single. I mean, and I did come to in a few it took a few years that I got to that place of contentment, and godliness with contentment is great gain.
Yes,
that is, and that scripture is amazing to just be like, yes, do you know what? I'm walking with the Lord. He's doing amazing things, and I'm going to trust him in that.
And I think there's so much weight in what you've said there, because I think there are so many people who really struggle with that waiting season of singleness, some people it's not just a waiting season, that is the season they stay in, and I think in society, and even in Christian society, sometimes families and marriages are kind of what we sometimes see as that is the goal,
optimum.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think so many people probably really struggle with that, of thinking, where is God in this, and what's his plan, and how do I chase that? How do I trust God? And you being able to find that place, and obviously there were struggles on the way to finding that place, but of being like, Jesus is enough, and if he brings somebody else into my life, that's great, but like he is enough.
And I think that sometimes as Christians and in churches we shy away from embracing singleness. Like sometimes you can walk into a church and be like, and the first question is, are you married? Or like, oh, let's find you a husband. And sometimes that can put a real pressure on people. But it's like, oh, is that God's calling? Is that where God's bringing me? I mean, look at Paul. Look at him.
I was just
we wouldn't have all those these amazing letters in Paul's ministry, probably, if he was married,
and he spoke about the benefits of being single, didn't he? He spoke,
absolutely.
He kind of encouraged people that some people are called to that, and that is a good thing.
Absolutely. We definitely need that variety in our community, and to support people and to love people as well. And I think for me now, my heart is to really look out for single people as well, because they are family. We're in the family of God, and to share family life with other people is such an important thing.
Family.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, in that then I mean, we all love a love story.
Well,
going on.
And tell us like kind of the timeline of this, because it was a big waiting season for you, really, wasn't it?
Yes, I mean, my mathematical brain. So yes, it was. This was in December of 2021. Yes, thank you, Katrina. Thank you for your help.
Well, it's funny because I met you in person the same time.
Oh, yes.
As you met.
This is why it was very special time. Very, very special time.
And just to give perspective before we tell this amazing love story, the timeline. So Isaac was 7 by this point.
Yes,
I think.
yeah.
And you'd been single for all or most of that time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You know, I've been on a few dates from Christian, you know, but anyway, they hadn't worked out, and I was very much in content, especially like through lockdown as well. You know, it was literally me focusing on God and Isaac at home, trying to homeschool and everything there,
and being the only adult in the house.
Yes, being the only adult. Well, yes, of course. So definitely felt like a long waiting season, and we were with West End Has Faith because we were doing a concert with All Souls Orchestra in Langham Place, and we've had West End Has Faith has had a really wonderful relationship with All Souls over the years, and we were doing a Christmas concert based on a Christmas Carol. So we were there, and Katrina, you were in the cast as well, and it was really brilliant. It was great with Michael Andrews conducting. And I remember on the day of the concert, something had gone a bit awry with the descant for Hark the Herald or something like that.
Classic.
We classically
it's always Hark the Herald.
Something we got the wrong one. Anyway, so I went to this guy at the piano. And I've still got the voice note on my phone. It's just hilarious. So would you mind just going through this descant with me? Because it's a bit different to what I was expecting. And he was like, yeah.
And that's not the rehearsal, that's the day of the show.
That's the day of the show, right?
I missed the accent there. Sorry, what did he say?
Oh, no, he said, sure. You know, that's terrible, sorry. And so, like, I've got this me going, oh, so I was like reading, and this guy playing the tune on the piano. Yes. Little did I know that was Mr. Gibson, my future husband.
Wow!
At that moment, and so that was the first time I met him. And then I think, did it involve you again with having some spare tickets?
Yes, I'm in the story.
You see, Katrina's so in the story. So then later on, we were in our dressing room. Like, it wasn't quite a dressing room, but it was our dressing room. And Katrina, you'd said,
we're actually in the wings.
We were in the it's something like that.
Because the morning, so my friend couldn't come, and it was to do with COVID as well. So, you know, the good thing that came out of the pandemic. But she couldn't come because she was isolating, and so she had a spare ticket, or maybe there was two spare.
I think there were two spare
tickets. So I'd sent an email to everybody, because maybe I didn't even have your number at this point. I don't know, but I'd sent an email to everyone, and said if anyone wants this ticket. And then from what I remember, I think you thought it was for the evening show.
Yes.
But it was for the matinee.
Because the plot thickens. Yes.
And I think it was like an hour or 2 hours before the matinee.
Yes.
And you'd offered it to someone for the evening. And then we were in the wings. And I was like, oh, I'm really sorry. No, it's the matinee.
Oh, no. So
and then you was like, don't worry, I'll sort it out. And then
Mr. Gibson, David Gibson, came and knocked on our dressing room door and said, does anyone have, he was being a bit cheeky, he thought he was trying to get 2 tickets for some family members. He thought, who should I go and ask? I know, I'll ask the performers. Didn't really know us. And
that's so funny.
So he knocked the door and I opened the door. And I was like, yes, my friend's got 2 tickets. And then so then that was set up, and just had a little chat, and that was it. And I think I found out, he was, he was a great pianist, Christian, and at West End Has Faith, we do lots of different gigs, and people's availability was really looking at getting another pianist on board. And so I just messaged him and said, would you be interested in this? To which he messaged back, and then he tells me that I didn't reply to him in true terrible fashion. And then a couple of weeks later, he messaged and said, would West End Has Faith like to come and sing at his church, which is Christchurch Cockfosters, at Easter? Which I said, great. So then we had a Zoom. We call these professional Zooms because we ended up talking about the gig for like 5 minutes, and then just chatting away and getting to know each other to a point that, yes, so that was over a few months. And then, the rest is history.
Wow.
God is good.
That is amazing. And that is amazing that was, would you say that was kind of, it seems like that was the perfect timing, because you were now not looking for a relationship to fulfill kind of a void, but it was, you were already content, as you say, content with godliness is great gain. And then God was able to to bring you into a new season and from a healthy place.
Oh, definitely. And I think for me, it's like, I was like, no, I'm only even looking at a guy if he's Christian and if he's interested. If he's not a Christian and doesn't love God and is not going to put God first and is not going to, help lead me to Jesus, then I don't want anything to do with him.
Yeah.
And obviously, Mr. Gibson is a wonderful Christian guy. And and it's been, in the last, we got married in March 2023.
Yes.
And moved back to
London.
The wedding
was just the best.
It was a fun wedding.
Like it was
great.
literally growing up. I've always thought about weddings, and like ever since I was a kid, I used to get my little computer out and like plan my wedding, and like if I could have planned my dream wedding, like you've had it. It was amazing. Like even to be there, it was literally a fairy tale wedding, and so theatrical, so beautiful, so full of God.
For us, it was the service obviously was the most important part, and we're both musical. We love music. We love to use music to worship God, and so we really put a lot into that, and it was just such a joyful experience, and just to be surrounded by those that love you and want to support you in marriage, and what marriage means to a Christian as well, and for me then not being brought up in a Christian household and what that looks like. And then David leading the way, he was brought up in a Christian household in Northern Ireland, and what it looks like when you're dating as a Christian, and then, moving up after you're married. I know a lot of my family were like, are you not going to live together? And stuff like, they found it a really alien concept about honoring God through that whole season, to which I think is a great witness to people. It's like, we're trusting God, and we know that marriage is a spiritual thing, and that we want to follow what it says in the Bible about that, and so it was a real wonderful learning curve for me, and getting married at 36, you can look back and you can think, well, do you know what? God did that in such a short space of time. You just have to trust him, because when it's meant to be, it'll happen.
Yes, yeah, and you can't force it. God had his perfect plan and I think what really inspires me about you and David as well is that you do really intentionally keep God at the center, and that is just such a great example, because I just think that sometimes it can become that relationships can become a distraction from God. And to be honest, that's something I struggle with kind of almost being apprehensive to even want to date, because I'm like, I don't want anyone to take my eyes away from Jesus. Like, I want to be focused on him. But like, I feel like in your relationship, you both encourage each other to draw near to God. And David works for the church, and he's very invested in his faith. And for you both, that is your whole world. That's everything, and everything you do flows from that. So I think that you're a great example of encouraging each other to draw closer to God rather than distracting each other from that, if that makes sense.
Yes. Oh, yes, definitely. And we always, it's like you kind of go take it in turns. So you're like, right, this, you say, we're going to pray about this. We need to take it to God. And I think it is pulling each other when when one person's feeling lower than the other, but always reminding each other, and to having that like support and encourager to always like point you towards Jesus. And I'm always very grateful in David, in what he knows, his knowledge of God, and everything in that it's just really, really helped me so much.
Yeah, that's so amazing. And he's been so amazing with Isaac as well, hasn't he?
Oh, well, that's it. All these challenges that come in that you don't, like, he would never have expected that at all. Is maybe his dreams of what he thought marriage might look like and how that might happen. And he's just brilliant. He's such a great mentor to young men and in our church, and to Isaac as a small boy. It's been really wonderful to see their relationship grow, and how he points Isaac to God as well. And he's a real leader.
And they've got a really great relationship, haven't they?
Oh yes,
so lovely to see. Yeah.
they like playing the Switch.
Yeah, you're outnumbered now, but you have got Coco. So
there are the dog. She's a girl. Yes. No, but then yes, I do feel like what's Mom up to now? Kind of thing. They gang up on me in a wonderful way.
Oh, that is so amazing. And I just think it's such a blessing to be able to hear all of this from you, because it's just so clear how God has woven together your story and that you've submitted to him. And, you know, it says to commit everything to the Lord, and he will direct our steps. And I think that's just such a great example. And obviously that doesn't mean that life is without struggles. And when you are in a waiting season, or you're in something where you don't know how it's going to unfold, and with this, for example, you had 7 years of not knowing what your future, if your future involved a husband or not. But you can't see into the future, but God has got, it's like, you know, someone said to me once, it's like a tapestry that when you're really zoomed in on the situation you're currently in, that's all you can see. But God like has the whole picture, and when you zoom out, you see how he works it all together. And I just think that's such an encouragement, hopefully, to people who are listening, to know that you could be stuck in this situation. You have no idea how you're going to get out of it. You know, have no idea what the breakthrough will look like, but if we commit to God and trust in him and follow him, that he will direct our steps, and he's got a perfect plan for everybody who loves and, you know, follows him, which is so encouraging.
Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you so much for this. It's been really, really lovely, and I'm sure it's going to bless so many people.
Oh, thank you so much, Katrina. It's been really lovely to be able to share my story, and my prayer is just that I hope it encourages people and points people towards Jesus.
Yes, absolutely. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I really hope that it's been a blessing to you, and my prayer is that you will know there is so much hope for you. So hold on to that hope. I do have a list of mental health resources in the description of this episode, so please do make use of this. If you think it might be something that benefits you or someone that you know, please do share it with them. Also, I'd love if you could support me as I spread the word of this podcast by subscribing, liking and commenting on YouTube, and by leaving a rating and a review on Spotify, and also engaging with me through the Q&A section. This would really help me to spread the word and to spread the hope. I'll see you next Monday for another episode. Thank you so much once again. God bless you all. Bye.